goodness. You are such an inspiration. Wow, you really are. You're so strong. Can I pet your service dog? Ugh. 1, 2, 3, let's go! We are artists, parents, teachers, good guys, bad guys, students, leaders. I'm not your inspiration, yeah, I'm fully who I am. Got my own expectations that don't fit into your plans. I'm not your sad story, so I wrote it in this song. Everything you know about disability is wrong. Yeah, everything you know. Yeah, everything you know about disability is wrong.
Hey listeners, and welcome to another episode of Everything You Know About Disability is Wrong.
Today on the show, we have Dr. Hoby Wedler.
Dr. Hoby is a celebrated chemist and entrepreneur. Holding a Ph.D. in physical organic chemistry from the University of California, Davis, Dr. Wedler has carved out a unique niche by focusing on how sensory experiences shape human emotions and reactions.
Dr. Wedler's work focuses on product development in the food and beverage industry, as well as designing and performing unique multisensory experiences called tasting in the dark.
Beyond his scientific achievements in organic chemistry and as an entrepreneur, Dr. Wedler is a passionate educator and advocate for inclusivity in science and business, inspiring a wide audience through lectures, workshops, and mentorship programs. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Hoby.
Hey, how you doing?
We're so excited to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be with you, and I'm really excited to extend the work of just whatever is possible for folks with disabilities. You know, a lot of people say we can't. You know, and my whole thing is we can. And if anyone says the word impossible to me, I look at that word and I put an apostrophe, a little apostrophe between the I and the M, and I say, I'm possible.
I love that.
Yeah.
We haven't even started the questions and you've already given the thesis for our podcast. Yes, exactly.
And I think it's a good segue into our first question.
Before we get into questions, Erin, we should do audio descriptions.
I'm sorry.
We forget every episode, but we're going to do it this time because I put it in bold.
All right, so I'll start. This is Erin speaking. I have red hair, blue eyes, and I'm wearing a green shirt. And I'm in my bedroom sitting on my wheelchair.
Nice.
Thanks, Erin. This is Lily speaking. I am a white multiracial person with half brown, half blonde hair split down the middle, Cruella de Vil style. And I have green eyes, and I am sitting in my home office with a lot of disability advocacy books behind me and a poster that says, "We are meant to change." I'm wearing my usual black turtleneck and my gold chain that I will fidget with throughout the entire episode.
There we go.
And then Dr. Hoby, you can go ahead.
Hey, I'm Dr. Hoby Wedler. I am sitting in an office with a pretty white, boring wall behind me. 37 years old and have my hair pulled to the side a little bit as I adjust my hair as I'm speaking. And I'm wearing a nice polo shirt with just a full zip fleece jumper on top of that.
Nice. Great. So that
Excited to be with you. What I love about Easter seals, and the reason that I joined Catalyte, which is the company that I'm a part of, which you all need to know more about, and I will share more about, is because I just want people with disabilities to have the best opportunities they can in life and really move through life in the best way possible. So that's my whole goal and point in life, is to just help people do what they can, you know, and be the best people and the most well-represented people they can possibly be. So that's my goal.
I love that. Perfect. Our first question is, the name of our podcast is Everything You Know about disability is wrong? And what do people get wrong about you?
Wow, Aaron, that's a great question. What do people get wrong about me? Think about that for a minute. I think the main thing that that people don't understand about me is how much I offer to the world around them and how valuable I am as a business consultant. So I really do work a lot as someone who's hardworking, who's caring in the business world around me. And I want to help people succeed. I want to help people thrive and all this. And I don't know necessarily that people understand like what I can do. They see my profile and it's like, what do you do? You know, who are you? This sort of thing. So I also feel like in terms of accessibility, people try to be really helpful. And help is great, but let's talk to the people who are using the help to understand how we can help them. So a flight attendant yesterday, who I love very much and who shall not be named here, was in the process of helping me get my bag and cane down from my overhead bin yesterday. And she made an error and totally dropped my bag on the floor, which meant my computer fell from about 5 feet down to the floor, and my bag sort of opened up and stuff was all over the aisle, and it was a little embarrassing. And what was hard to explain was this idea that this is not you. This is not the person who's got the issue with what they're trying to help with at all. It's more the person who's being helped and understanding what disability is and what disability is not, right? And where should we step in and help?
Yes, absolutely. We have talked a lot about also the additional layer of like consent to help before stepping in, because I think people tend to assume that if they're quote unquote helping, then they should do whatever they want to do without maybe asking if it's the necessary help. I liked what you said about your people not knowing everything you have to offer, because you are quite multidimensional. And we talk about on this podcast a lot the way that non-disabled people sometimes tend to desire to put disability into recognizable boxes.
Right.
Of like, this is the lane this person is in, and you are in multiple lanes, so you're very hard to kind of box. So I think that makes total sense to me that people might not immediately know. And speaking of your profile,
thank you for acknowledging that.
It's a good thing. It's cool. You do so many cool things. And I mean, I knew you from social media, but even just doing more research. Yes. My fiance is an aspiring chef and loves your videos because I'm super autistic about, I'm autistic about everything because I'm autistic, but I'm super autistic about learning how to cook, in that anytime he tells me that I need to do something in my cooking, unless I understand like the scientific process behind it, my brain doesn't want to do it. And your videos are really great. Like, one of your videos convinced me that I should be drying my chicken before I cook it.
You totally should. It was done on October 6th of last year.
And he had done that. He'd been telling me to dry my chicken for a long time, but I didn't until I was like, oh, a Milliard reaction. Okay. So yeah, I love your content. And so if our listeners may know you from social media as well, and you start your videos often saying you are your non-visual sensory guide to the greatest things in life, which is an incredible intro. And I have to ask, to you, what defines the greatest things in life?
To me, the greatest things in life are the things that people don't know they're not experiencing. So in so many ways, when we can just let ourselves experience life and not worry about what we're not experiencing, that's when we make magic happen, right? So when does it come forward that we allow ourselves to just basically say, in so many ways, I am here to just enjoy the life that I live and the life that I want to work with and the life that I want to use to my advantage, right? How often is that we're not allowed to say that, And for me, the greatest things, not being a non-visual guide to the greatest things life has to offer, is saying, remember to live your life too, and enjoy everything that comes your way. And sometimes we live our lives so visually. In fact, 85 to 90% of our lives, I think we live visually in terms of what we perceive. How can we perceive more when we just let ourselves do it?
What a phenomenal answer.
I know.
I'm smiling ear to ear right now because it's just so gorgeous. And I feel like it is the kind of true embodiment of, the common phrase, stop and smell the roses. But in reality, there's so much to be experienced. And I think the way that in your content you talk about the sensory experience, it really speaks to me on the level of that, like, I am in the pursuit of a pleasurable experience of this life.
Every time.
Yeah. And,
how can we shift our mind to allow ourselves that experience every time?
Yes. And from like a neurodivergent experience, I think that there's something really beautiful about giving yourself the space to honor your senses. Mm-hmm. And that kind of pursuit of pleasure for me has really resulted in taking the time to stim, whether that's taking the time to smell the smells I like to smell, or just move my body and feel what that feels like. So your content really speaks to me.
I'm happy about that.
Well, I'm glad. How did you get started, like, making that content? You have such an experienced background. What was the content adventure?
It's such a fun story here. A silly one, maybe at that. I had a TikTok channel in the past that had 10,000 followers or something for a spice brand that I started. But I started with a coach in mid 2024. And she said, just get on TikTok. Talk about what you love. Talk about things that you care about, and really help the world understand that you are out here to change the way that we think about sensory perception. And I did that. And I just started going. And I got the 200,000 followers. Like, what? It's crazy.
I love that. And I love the simplicity of that, of just like put yourself out there for the things that you love.
That's right. That's all you got to do. You've got to get out there. You've got to just get out on in whatever way you can, whatever platform you have, you can, whatever, and present yourself as you want to be seen in the world, because we have the power of controlling what we do in the world and how we represent ourselves in the world. And that is what we, it's our gift, right? And that is what we have. So present yourself how you want to be respected.
I think that's great, because you can't really control how others perceive you, especially others who don't know you, and maybe only see you online or, out and about. But, you, to a large extent, can control how you behave as far as how you want to present yourself. And I think that is really important too, as far as how you perceive yourself, because when you're out there, showing yourself, you fully understand how, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Like, how you present yourself is very important to how you perceive your disability.
That's
at
right.
least in my opinion. Because, I've dealt with, I'm sure everyone here has dealt with ableism and false assumptions about who you are. That if you know who you are, that is a very strong force that kind of allows you to brush off ableism for the most part. For me, at least.
Yeah, for me too, Aaron. And that's so special to hear you say that, because I think that the most important thing we can do in any sense of the word disability is to just understand what we can do. And society says that everything you do about disability is wrong, and that's your podcast title, which I absolutely love, by the way. For me, it's all about figuring out what I do that other people don't do, that makes me happy, that makes me sing, that makes my life thrive in so many ways, right? So that's who I am. And, I am a person with a disability. I'm not going to be blind, but my disability doesn't necessarily define who I am and what I do. I'm sort of my own person, sort of above and beyond all that, and when we live our lives with disabilities, we need to understand and embrace the fact that our culture and where we live and how we live defines us, but also what we make of ourselves and how we show the communities around us that we can do what we can do, because that's what relates to them. It creates business, it creates social opportunities, and creates so many things that are so special for moving life forward and living the best life we possibly want to live. And for me, very personally, this is a very personal statement, I want to allow people in every aspect of life that they take on to live a life where they feel free, where they can walk to the store and buy what they want. Look, people with disabilities are often told, "Oh, you do what you do. You do what your caregivers do for you." I want someone to walk down and buy a bottle of wine or vodka or whatever if they want to do it. It doesn't matter. I want someone to walk down to the market and buy whatever they want to eat, whatever they want to do, whatever they want to interact with, and then do that and live their life and enjoy it. Because that's what life is all about, is figuring out where we can be independent and then being independent and enjoying the heck out of the independent life that we live.
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on the word independence, because in the disability community, there's this idea that, you can't be independent because you have caretakers, which to me is bullshit. Because,
yeah, me too.
Independence to me means being able to live my life the way I want to, and it doesn't matter if I have caretakers. No one in this world lives by themselves successfully. Everyone needs everybody else to live, to survive, to eat, to have clothes, to do anything, really.
Yeah.
So that's what independence should mean, I think.
I agree. Aaron, I agree so much. Independence is not about who's taking care of you, who's doing whatever. It's about what we can do ourselves to make our life better in so many ways.
Thank you both for sharing on that, because I think, Aaron, we've talked about this in the past, that the independent word, it's a hard one to talk about because of all of the assumptions. And I think that you both just helped click something into place for me of that, like, it's really that autonomous nature of like wanting to be able to make my decisions for myself is what's most important. But in in a capitalist society, it can feel really easy to think independence means I need to push through and ignore my needs and not accommodate myself. And that's far from the opposite. Independence has to, I completely agree with everything you both said. The independence, there's like the beauty in it.
Well, there's a spectrum too of independence. And I really am going to write a book someday that I have not written yet. And I'm not promising any listeners that it's going to come anytime soon. But I want to write a book called The Spectrum of Independence, which is all about how accessible and how independent can we all be in life that we live.
Yeah.
I love that so much. It goes back to everything we've been saying about like, it's funny how, what you stated about that being a very personal statement. It's kind of wild how it feels like a unique or rare statement, which boils down to, I want everyone to enjoy themselves. And
that's the bottom line. Like, the whole point here is everybody was given a gift, a huge gift by being on this earth. And let's just allow them to have fun.
Right. I think that's like the end game for everybody is just to enjoy life.
Yeah.
I hope it should be.
Yeah. Right.
It can get really easy to get caught up in like the hustle culture of it all. Yeah. And I'd love to remind myself that there's no title or accolade that will make me enjoy life forever. I have to just do that myself. I have to work for that.
That's right. We have been given a gift, if I will say this, of life, and we need to just take the most that we got from it. And who cares if we're disability oriented and have disabilities and whatnot? It's all about what people make of us.
And I'm trying to think of the way to word this, but I love that we've touched on the like personal desires of how you want to spend your life, because, I think that there's like, I've experienced the assumption of the fact that sometimes because I can't necessarily be super social all the time, that maybe that means I'm not enjoying my life, because I like to spend a lot of my time staying at home watching movies that I've seen a million times. Like, but for me, that is joy. That is what I want to be doing at that moment. Yes. Yeah. And that, I think, is the really beautiful thing, is when you let go of the assumptions of like what needs to look like you're choosing pleasure and what actually is the feeling of choosing pleasure. I just love this conversation.
For me, it's so amazing. Well, you just expressed that, and Aaron, that you expressed what you did earlier too. I think there's a complexity here with how we experience pleasure, how we experience life, how we experience what we do, et cetera, et cetera. And I really like to think of it for me as I am doing what I do as a person with disability. Excuse me. I think about it in this way. I do what I do as a person with a disability because I enjoy the life that I live. I struggle a lot as well. And I love, as my escape, audio described videos, things that are online on Netflix, which are very prominent now, actually, that are audio described, and just sort of doing my own thing and getting away from the world and watching my own stuff. We all love this, and we all have our ways of experiencing art, experiencing science, experiencing everything that we do. But I think it's really important for people with disabilities to be able to say, and this is a really, really important thing that I'm about to say for me. We need to be able to isolate ourselves from the life that we live and just step into really loving ourselves and understanding ourselves and doing what works for us, right? So whether that's listening to what I just talked about, videos online that are audio described, or listening to NPR, National Public Radio, which is one of my huge passions. It's always on in my house, or whatever the case may be. With your disability, you have to know what is right for you. And figuring that out is hard, right? But that is so incredibly important to me, to figure out what makes you not go out and be an entrepreneur like I am and get a bunch of work, but what makes you you? What makes you who you are? And for me, what makes me who I am is my partnerships that I have in life. I've got great parents. They've been great for my whole life. They've been amazing role models for me all along and provided me with strength and determination and everything I need. And they taught me in a very not, I will say not nice, but not ableist way, that there's no substitution for amazingly hard work in everything that you do. So that's been a big part of my life too. And, you know, they are partnered with my partner, who I've known for many years, and who's been a partner of mine for about 20 years, where my disability is not the thing that defines me. My disability is just a thing, right? My blindness is just like having brown eyes for me. And that, I think, is so incredibly important for people to remember, is that disability should not define you.
I completely agree. And I like the statement on it's like having brown eyes. We talk sometimes about the way that it's like a neutral statement, disability. Like when I tell people for the first time, like, oh, I'm autistic, the worst response is something that comes back feeling like pity, like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm like, well, I've been this way my whole life. This is my experience of the world, and my experience of the world matters. So I'm sorry you're sorry, but that's not my experience of it. And I think that is
and not my problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the risk of sounding like disabilities can be superpowers, which I know can be frustrating.
Totally.
I do agree, though, that there is a unique or a distinct perspective. And in a world where perspective is so important and personal brands are so important, the disabled perspective cannot be overlooked. And it's something, if you are someone with a disability, that you have to offer, is a perspective that other people don't have.
And Lily, what I would say to that, which I think is so smart, is that your statement is so smart. I mean, what I would say to that in response is that, we see the world differently, and we're never going to see it the same. And a different view, a different way of thinking about the world is so incredibly important to everything that we do. So
absolutely,
I agree with you, is what I'm saying, is that yes, we see the world differently, but that difference is going to make the world a better place. And I don't want to use words like DEI and things like that anymore, but really what I would say is that, like, if you bring people on your team, and I'm a businessman myself, and a successful businessman, I might say, just because I love what I do. If you bring someone on your team who has different levels of understanding that you do, you change what you can do business-wise, and you make it possible in ways that you never thought possible. So that's what I love.
Yes, that is, I mean, one of the areas Easter Seals has a lot of programs is employment programs, and helping people with disabilities find employment. And that is something that whenever we're talking to companies, we're trying to get people to understand, money talks, right? And the more people you can appeal, whatever your product, your service, your whatever to, the better. So why would you not want someone who can bring an experience or a perspective that can bring more people into your consumer base? It's common sense.
Money talks is not a false expression.
Right.
Yeah. No,
yeah, I think, go ahead.
Totally thrilled to chat with you both about disability and about how we all sort of tie the loose ends together our own ways, because the thing about disability that's sort of most important to me is that nobody is the same. We try to lump people, oh, you're blind, you're deaf, you're autistic, whatever the case may be in terms of who you are. But everybody is unique, and that's what makes us so incredibly special and what makes this culture so incredibly important to understand and to think about, right? It's like, who are we really?
Right. If you've met one person with a disability, you've met one person, and that's it.
That's right.
Because everyone is different.
That's right. And
Absolutely.
all beautiful and all amazing in their own ways. And by the way, I also contend, as we talk about disability, that everybody has disabilities. Maybe it's something you don't like talking about. Maybe it's a way you move your right foot. Maybe it's whatever. But every one of us has a disability. I really do think that's important to say.
Yeah, I think it's a really important perspective too, especially as we start to understand like the way that like trauma and mental health can affect people. And, I think about what you just said, the level of like, some people have a hard time talking about something. Like if you've been through things in your past that affect the way you communicate, the way you move through life, that is, whether you want to identify as or not, but that is a disabled experience. Right. And I think you're so right. And also, it's the only group that anyone can join at any time. Right. So
no, we are the minority that anyone can become a part of any time. And I think a lot of people are a part of it, but don't choose necessarily to admit that. And it's a beautiful minority. I have gained so much from being a disabled blind person. It's not even funny. Like, disability is on the surface a disadvantage, but in reality, such an incredible advantage because of what we can do with it.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's where like accessibility becomes such a big deal. And like this world could be so cool if we had enough accessibility that
Amen.
Disabled people could access the things they need to do the cool things they want to do. Like we have really cool ideas, and there's just so much beauty in our community. And obviously we never shy away from that. There's struggle and hardship and in access and awful things, but I think that's kind of what you said, the common narrative is the disadvantage. So there's something really important about bringing up that advantage.
Yeah, and remembering like where is our unseen advantage that we don't often talk about? Where are we really powerful?
Absolutely. Well, this is shifting gears a tiny bit, but I'm just interested a little bit more in your kind of overall story, because it feels like even from just talking for this last half an hour, you can tell that like your passion is a fuel in your life. It's so apparent that you have so many passions. And there's your work in general combines so many things when we're talking about food and flavors, and you're a chemist and you work in sensory perception. So how did you get involved in all of these different areas? And I'm like, did it begin in chemistry? Because I know you started liking science at a young age. How did you merge all of these different passions?
That's a great question, Lily. And I love it. So I'll give you a bit of a long answer. Pardon my length in advance.
Long answer, welcome.
My parents started it all with being just so open to having a blind child. Like, it was not a big deal to them. they honestly didn't know blind people in the past, and understand what blind people could do. And when they had me, it was like, oh, okay, we've done all our genetic testing, we've done everything, and here he is. Great, let's do this. Let's run with it. And they grabbed the bull by the horns and actually worked with an agency that I love to highlight anywhere I can, called the Blind Babies Foundation, now called the Little Learners Division of the White House for the Blind and Visually Impaired of San Francisco, which is a Northern California organization. And when I worked with them, and still is, to help parents really embrace what their kids can do and remind them of what their kids can do in so many ways. So that was a really incredible opportunity for me. And then, I grew up and my parents never substituted hard work. It was like, you're going to work probably 2 times harder than your sighted brother. And that was fine for me. He got stuff done quicker and I spent more time doing it. They also never hired anyone to do any work on the house because they wanted us to learn how to do that. So we did everything ourselves. And, I was pouring concrete when I was 7 years old. I was replacing drain pipes when I was 6 years old, and actually got to know a plumbing system really, really well. It was just fairly small at a cabin that our family stays at and runs up in Northern California near Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, that is, and really enjoy that opportunity to know the plumbing system. And what's funny is now I think I'm one of the only few people that knows that system, along with my father. So a lot of people call me and say, hey, how does this work? What do we do with plumbing? And I can explain it to them and really get back to them. In high school, chemistry was interesting because I had a teacher that was really good. I, first of all, discouraged from taking honors chemistry. And I said, let me just take the test. I took the test. And when I got the high score on the exam to place in honors chemistry, they said, oh, God, we got to come to you. Okay, we're going to do this. And the thing was really figuring out how lab spaces would be accessible. And I worked with them and myself as well to figure out, we can make this work. We can make this accessible if we try. And we brought in a student who had taken the class the year before me, who wanted teaching assistant opportunities or TA opportunities. And we were able to give her that for being my lab assistant and reader and scribe on exams. But for me, it was a matter of my parents not jumping in and saying, oh, we've got this. We're going to control this for you. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. And saying, how do you think you should deal with this? What's your goal? And how do you want to do this? And for me, as someone who can sort of grab the bull by the horns, if you will, and do things myself, that was an incredible opportunity for them to say, what do you think? And I should say that my mother was a teacher of the visually impaired for 35 years and started when I was about 6 years old. So really had an influence on me from her work and from what she did. And I think was influenced to do that work based on what I did in my life and who I was. But just looking forward and not necessarily at everything I've described just presently, what gave me the passion was high school chemistry, going to college, studying chemistry, explaining to people that I could do what I wanted to do, and ultimately earning a graduate degree in chemistry from Professor Dean Tantillo at UC Davis, really made it what I wanted it to be and made chemistry sort of my passion and something that I could hang my hat on and be proud of. As a blind organic chemist. But what I love now about having finished my Ph.D., which was a grueling and harrowing amount of work, by the way, but something I would never trade for anything, what I've learned is that I just love expressing myself in the world through food and drink. What I love more, though, is understanding people and connecting with them on levels like we're connecting today, right? That's the most important thing to me, is making human connections and letting those connections just survive, and not only survive, but thrive as we live the lives that we live.
I love that.
Lily, I don't feel like I really got your question right.
There's no right on this podcast.
No.
We don't believe in that word. It was exactly what we needed to hear at this moment. I have to back up, because when you started answering that question, both Aaron and I lit up, because we love to talk about parents who assume competence in their disabled kids.
Yes.
It is so important. And I think someday we'll have to go back and tally it up, but I'm going to add this to the number of episodes to have one of us saying, "Go moms."
Go moms, go dads, go parents.
Yes, it is just so important, and is a recurring, it's such a recurring theme on this podcast. And every time it gets brought up, I say this, that I think that makes sense, because this podcast, we're highlighting people who are doing really cool things. And it goes back to what we were saying about no one is truly individual or independent. We are who we are because of who raised us and the experiences we had. And it makes so much sense that the type of parents you're describing, who had you pouring cement at 7, created this person who now, is such an entrepreneur and is so willing to change people's perspective. Just bravo.
Oh, thank you so much. It's very kind of you to say that. But the other thing I would add is that don't let yourself hold yourself back either. Try to just, even if your parents didn't believe in you, just push out of your shell in so many ways, as much as you can, and just get out in this world. And Easter seals, and one of the reasons I love serving the board that I serve in Northern California and Hawaii, which runs 2 Easter seals offices, is Easter seals is a way of getting people to say, let me just do me. Let me get out there. I'm not anything other than me. And that sold me.
I love hearing that, because that's what we're trying to do every day at Easter Seals. It's just letting people lead their own lives.
That's right.
Live their own lives. And
that's it.
It's great to hear that.
And how could we, one of the questions that I would ask everybody to think about is, what is your, disabled or non-disabled, just anybody out there, think about your best life and think about what you would do to accomplish that. And whatever any of us can do to help make that happen, let us know. But try to live that best life that you have.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm giddy having that, the tie there to Easter seals and the feeling of, helping people live their best life, because that is absolutely the goal here. And it's so wonderful to talk about our incredible affiliates who are doing such amazing work, and truly meeting people where they're at, saying, this is that. One of the things that makes Easter seals difficult to market is that each of our affiliates are doing such different services, because they are meeting their community where they're at.
Correct.
And that, I think, I'll take the difficult marketing, because it's cool to see just how vastly different the services are depending on who they're meeting where they're at. And it makes sense that the services would be different, because like we've said throughout this episode, everyone's best life looks different. And when you assume what a disabled person's best life looks like, it's usually not a good thing. Instead, why don't we ask people, what does your best life look like, and how can I help you get there?
But Lily, I love what you're saying there too. And so number one, yes. And number two, I think that it's amazing how similar the things that we all want in life are. We need financial stability. We need comfort in the work that we do. And I think that we can, and with the Easter seals in particular, we can find those places for people.
I completely agree.
I'm so excited, guys. Man, this really, I needed this morning. I got off of a flight from Europe at 8 p.m. last night, and I needed a pick-me-up this morning. You did
Yeah,
it.
me too. I love that. Thank you.
That makes me very happy because
Yes.
that's, it's like a micro version of the letting people do what they want. That's kind of also why this podcast has like the title in itself is kind of the only like direction we give our guests, because we just want to give people space to talk about what you want to talk about. Like that is really cool.
And let me be super, super transparent here. I don't want to be political at all, but to be a little political for just a quick second here. I don't like the way society judges us for who we are. And if someone sees, oh, this person has a disability, that application gets thrown to the side for someone who's able-bodied with the same level of skills that you or I have. I think we need to realize that talent is available, and we need to pay for and support talent as a government and really understand what people who might have a different viewpoint of the world can do. My research was funded, 3 years of my work was funded by the National Science Foundation as a very prestigious pre-doctoral fellowship that I got. And I don't know if that would be available now. And to me, we need to just embrace everyone for what he or she can do or she or he can do, and really understand the possibilities that are out there for us, without worrying and getting held up on what is the disability, what can this person do. In many cases, I hate even saying that I'm blind on a job application or whatever I'm doing, because I just want to be considered as me. It's who I am. And I flaunted my blindness to the NSF when I got my fellowship, and I think it made a lot of difference. But I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Let's just see. But let's remember, my number one message and goal is to remember that we are who we are, no matter what, and we do things that we do in life because we care, and we shouldn't be judged by a label of what our perceived disability might be. Does that make sense?
It makes
Absolutely.
complete sense.
Thanks.
And yes, it's certainly something we're all thinking about. And I think I'm so grateful for this whole episode, just because I think there's so much importance here in the understanding of what this population that is so often overlooked has to offer.
Right.
And I think that's super important. So we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to touch on this because you mentioned the work you do with our Easter Seals affiliate. Yeah. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit more about that? I'd love to just hear more.
Absolutely. I'll be very brief. My attorney, so this is let me just say, you've got to talk to people who introduce you to other people, okay? In every way possible. Take your social network as far as you can possibly dream, because if you don't do it, you won't meet certain crazy, amazing people. So I know a good friend, Ginger Johnson. Ginger Johnson is a world connector. She's a great person. Any of you who want to get in touch with Ginger should do so. Ginger introduced me to a man named Justin Breen, who calls himself a super connector and a PR guy. Justin introduced me to Rick Citron, and Rick Citron introduced me to Connie Santilli, who brought me onto the board of directors of Catalyte, which owns 2 Easter Seals affiliates. So I do what I do. I'm a good person. I care about what I do. And that really brought it home for me and did it for me with meeting Rick and meeting Connie and making everything happen, is just figuring out where the possibilities are. And Connie was on the board because she cared about the work and really appreciated what Easter Seals did, and I just jumped on as well because I love what I do, and I love it all. And I also introduced your production company to the woman who's the CEO of Easter Seals Northern California, Easter Seals Hawaii, by the name of Andrea Pettiford, and we recommend interviewing her as well. But my point here is a very, very, very important one that I want everybody to dig into, which is your connections are amazing, and take advantage of everybody you know.
Great advice.
In the nicest possible way. Don't take advantage in a mean way by any means, but man, everybody you know is special to you. And remember that.
Man, that's such an interesting and telling thing, in that, you know, the phrase "take advantage of" is like often thought of as like a negative thing.
Correct.
But when you, and maybe this is, you know, my obsession with language here showing through, but the take advantage at its simplest thing is just to take the advantage, grasp it. Like, you know, someone who knows someone you want to meet, take advantage of that, make
right.
that connection. And I think that there is something, about being proud of your value. And, you know, this is a perfect loop back to the start of our interview, the first question, that people, you know, maybe underestimate the value you have to offer, or don't understand the value you have to offer. And
That's right.
If you don't take advantage of these moments, you will be underestimated, unfortunately. And it's really important to advocate for yourself. There's so many amazing people out there advocating for communities as a whole, but remember that it's okay to advocate for yourself.
It's okay to advocate for yourself, but it's also okay to build others up and build the communities around you up, and whatever makes sense there. Just keep in mind, I think so importantly, that, you know, we need to bolster each other up as much as we can. I care immensely about you all, and you know, want us all to live the best life we can.
Well,
Sure.
Your care and joy and passion truly just, you know, is radiating from you. It's like wild to feel someone's care through a screen, but you are someone who does that. So it's been truly just a joy chatting with you. I love your work. Can you tell this is the moment to plug yourself. Tell our listeners about ways they can follow you online, and also other cool work you're doing that they might not know about.
Absolutely. So I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Hoby and Company, or Hoby and Co, as it's listed online, which is an affiliate of my main company, Wedland Group, where we do amazing tasting experiences that are truly blindfolded and really bring people to understand their non-visual senses. I also have a TikTok channel, which I'm very grateful has gotten about 200,000 followers over the past 6 months. That might be the way that we all found each other here. But, you know, I'm a non-visual sensory guy, and I want you just to enjoy. My whole goal is for everybody just to enjoy the best things life has to offer in every sense possible. Finally, have a company out of Italy called Emotitech, Emotitech, emotitech.com. If you can put that in the show notes, would be great. That
Totally.
is a company based on leaving the world a better place than we found it through neuroscience and products that we build. So we're really building products and focused on sensors that use sweat and completely non-invasive techniques to understand our hormone levels and what we're going through, what we're dealing with in life, and that sort of thing is really special to me. But I'm at Hoby Wedler, HOBYWEDLER, on all social platforms, and please reach out to me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, whatever you want it to be. And I want to leave you, Aaron and Lily, with 3 things that are just so incredibly important to me. Here they are. Number 1, we're not alone. If you feel in this life that you are alone, you're not. You have people here to back you, people here to support you, people here to make a difference and show you what is possible. Okay? You're not alone. Number 2, we are enough. We as a society, we as people with disabilities, we as anyone in this world are enough, right? We are enough. And number 3, you are amazing. Every person in this world has something they're amazing at. We just have to find it. And then once we find it, we have to throttle it and advertise it and make it a big deal. You are not alone. You are enough. And you are amazing. Those are my messages. If you don't get anything out of this show, then I want you to know.
Incredible. Yeah. You've got me choking up over here. Listeners, thank you for tuning in today. What a joy we have had. Dr. Hoby Wedler, thank you so much for being here. This was such an incredible episode. I know you said it was a pick-me-up for you, but it certainly was for Aaron and I as well.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you both. I just love you guys, and I love what Easter Seals does. And being on a board that supports people with disabilities in so many aspects of life is just so special to me.
Well, we love you right back. The love is palpable through the screen, like I said. I can't wait for this episode to be out, which if you're listening to this, it's obviously out and we're at the end of the episode. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, watching the video. If you're on YouTube, we are so grateful for everyone who cares for this podcast because it's the joy of Aaron in my life right now. Like, it's so fun. I love doing this. I love meeting amazing people like yourself. And Aaron, I love you.
I love you.
Thank you again, Dr. Hoby. We are just so grateful. And listeners, tune in next time for another episode of Everything You Know About Disability is Wrong.
If you liked what you heard, go ahead and subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you to our listeners. And as always, thank you to Easter Seals for giving us the space and resources to share such authentic conversations from within the disability community to our listeners.
And we'll see you next time for another episode of Everything You Know About Disability is Wrong.
Everything you know about disability is wrong.
This is a podcast brought to you by Easter Seals.
You know, we actually work for Easter Seals, but maybe our listeners don't know what we do.
That's true. Easter Seals is leading the way to full access, equity, and inclusion for disabled people and their families.
And did you know we've been doing this for more than a century?
This includes helping disabled people find meaningful employment and addressing healthcare needs for all ages.
We're proud to serve communities across the country and ready for the next 100 years. For more, check out easterseals.com.